This week on The Impact, spotlighting cases that slip between the cracks.
If you commit a crime in the city of Olympia, as an example, then the city of Olympia has jurisdiction. If a crime is committed on a reservation, it's not as clear cut.
Hear from the head of a new cold case unit focused on cases involving missing and murdered indigenous people.
This work is personal, and it is for the investigators too.
And the controversial plan to kill thousands of barred owls to save spotted owls in the Northwest. Plus, a look at environmental career building opportunities in the Washington Conservation Corps. One-on-one with incoming director Rebecca Benjamin.
Every year, the 5 graduates from our crew had made contacts with community organizations and agencies, and very often they would move right into a professional job.
That's all coming up on The Impact.
Our cherished loved ones are deserving of healing, safety, and justice.
A silent crisis unfolding for decades is now getting attention. A study of 71 cities by the Urban Indian Health Institute identified more than 500 cases of missing and murdered women of American Indian and Alaskan Native descent. The study found that Seattle had the highest number of cases among cities and that Washington had the second highest number of cases among states. In recent years, lawmakers have begun taking steps to enhance law enforcement coordination between state, local police, and tribal police. It's part of an effort to put more resources into cases involving missing indigenous people and solving unsolved murders. Policy changes have been sponsored by both Republican and Democratic state lawmakers. One change was the creation of the Missing Indigenous Person Alert System, an emergency alert similar to an Amber Alert issued by the Washington State Patrol. Legislation created a task force to look at the issue, and out of its recommendations, the legislature approved funding to create the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and People Cold Case Unit within the State Attorney General's office. Joining me now is Brian George, Chief Investigator of the Cold Case Unit. Brian, thank you for your time today. Can you give our viewers a little bit about your background leading up to your new role to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me today to talk about this important topic. I started my law enforcement career with the Suquamish Tribal Police Department, and I worked for them just under 2 years. And then I was hired by the Washington State Patrol, where I worked for 26 years with the patrol. Held a variety of investigative assignments in the patrol. And then my last assignment was the director of the State Fusion Center. And then retired from the State Patrol and pursue this opportunity here.
Just a brief segue here with that, the Fusion Center being sort of, in general terms here, maybe an information sharing super network location. Is that a good way to describe it? How would you describe it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, the mission there is to stop and disrupt terrorism activity in the state of Washington and to share information across the entire state with local, state, tribal, and federal partners to make sure everyone's working together and sharing information.
And so now in your new role, how would you describe the Cold Case Unit operationally in a nutshell? How does it work?
Yeah, so we're a newly created unit inside the Attorney General's office. The investigators started at the beginning of this year. We use the RCW that was created by the legislator that outlines our work, which in a nutshell shares that you know, we can only investigate cases at the request of the agency with primary jurisdiction. Additionally, the legislator asked us to prioritize our investigation with agencies with fewer resources, so smaller jurisdictions that are really impacted by not having a large investigative unit, which it sometimes takes to solve any particular case, but particularly a cold case.
And so you mentioned jurisdictions. Are jurisdictional conflicts an obstacle in investigations involving a missing person or a victim who was maybe known to be a resident or last seen on sovereign tribal property or a reservation?
Yeah, jurisdiction does play a role in why why we have the numbers of missing and murdered indigenous people. Because if you commit a crime in the city of Olympia, as an example, then the city of Olympia has jurisdiction. If a crime is committed on a reservation, it's not as clear cut. Sometimes the tribal police have jurisdiction, sometimes the federal investigators have jurisdiction. And then another example where it can be compounding is that if it is a tribal member, but the crime is committed off the reservation, and so now you have a couple different law enforcement agencies that are going to be part of that, and all of that delays response to investigations.
And what's the current caseload for your unit now here? It's been about a year you've been in this role, but again, this is a very new unit and a large number of cases out there.
Yeah, so currently we have 17 active investigations across the state from all four corners of our state, the cases that we're actively working. We've used, we understand that there's,
So can you walk me through the process? I think you touched on this earlier, but what steps have to happen before your unit winds up working on one of these cases, whether it's a missing persons case or unsolved homicide, or also if there are other types of cases that we're talking about, please let me know what examples might be.
Yeah, so when we stood up the unit, we looked at the numbers that we did have currently in front of us, and we recognized that those numbers are incomplete. So the first we looked at the homicide numbers. And the Attorney General's office has the homicide investigative tracking system, the HITS team, and they have a database of, I think there's roughly over 14,000 homicides in that database, solved and unsolved. But they culled out the unsolved of indigenous persons, and that gave us a number of 122 in the state of Washington. And we know that that number doesn't reflect all cases because not everybody puts into that, but it was simply a starting point. The second list that we used was the Washington State Patrol's list of missing indigenous persons. And that number fluctuates around 130 based upon runaways. That thankfully they're found pretty quickly. So that number changes weekly, monthly. So those was our launching pad. So we had visibility on that. We know that there's others that we don't. And we reached out to the Sheriffs and Police Chiefs Association, and they disseminated a letter to their membership, advertising in essence that our unit is up and running. So that was kind of our first touch point to local agencies that we have investigators on board, and we would like to assist your cases involving indigenous persons.
Do you, so just to clarify too, do you work cases that happen in any different zip code in the state or any different location?
Correct.
Is there more of one than the other in terms of like departments that have the most need, the fewest resources to investigate these? Are those typically rural, or does it vary?
It varies. I think that the number is, I think we have 58 of the homicides, and Eastern Washington is 64 in Western Washington. So it's pretty close split, 50-50 on the cases that we have visibility on at the moment.
What advantages does having a cold case unit focused on these specific cases bring to the general, I guess, issue of trying to find justice or track people down here in Washington?
Yeah, so I think the best thing and the most positive thing we can bring to an agency requesting our assistance is that this is our sole mission. Investigators today are on call, they're called out regularly, they have lots of cases coming at them. And so we can say, hey, you have an active indigenous case, we can step forward and put more time and resources towards that simply because that we're only narrowly focused on one mission set.
And again, just the mechanics of these investigations, it's not exactly the same as a straightforward local criminal investigative unit, but the steps are very similar. Can you walk me through kind of what those differences are and sort of how you proceed with these cases?
Yeah, so most of the time, not most of the time, the cases are cold when we receive them. Therefore, a substantial amount of investigative work has already taken place. So the first thing that we do is we have to get the official request from the agency. Then our investigator that's responsible for that area will meet with the detective assigned to the case and get some background information on the case. Then we receive a copy of the case file, and each case is unique and different. Some cases are, have several boxes of information, and some have several binders. So we take that and get a digitized copy of that. Either we do it ourselves internally, or the agency has it already digitized, and they send over that copy of the case file. Then is what we do internally is we move the case file into kind of a standardized format, internal format that we use that can help us expedite our review of the case file. So then all of the investigators will review independently that case file from start to finish. And oftentimes they review it more than once. And that can be hundreds or thousands of pages. It takes some time. But independently, we come up with a punch list of action items that we've identified that we think can strengthen the case. Then whoever is the primary lead investigator internally, we forward all of that information to them, and that they compile it. There's often duplicates of the information. But we do that blindly. That primary investigators has had in-person discussions with the agency, but the rest of the team has not. And that really gives us a clear review of the case without any influence. And we do it, like I said, we do it blindly. Then we come together as a team internally and talk about those points to strengthen the case. And we also discuss strategies on how to move that case forward. Maybe that could look like, which interview should we do first? Or should we look for processing evidence that's already held that maybe was overlooked and wasn't sent to the crime lab for analysis? Or maybe we're aware of maybe some advanced technology that private vendors have reached out to us to share that, hey, they have some capabilities. So all of these factors go into play as we look at a case.
Do you interview family members or witnesses or just persons of interest in these investigations? And I should warn you too, we've got about a minute left. Can you do the on the ground stuff?
Yeah, 100%. So we conduct interviews probably weekly of people involved in cases, with witnesses, with potential suspects, and the victims, if we have victims any way, shape, or form out there. And then lastly, you asked about working with family. That is an integral part of our process. We proactively work with family members and keep them apprised of our investigations as it moves forward.
Just to close us out here, can you talk about your perspective on the need or the challenge that's out there relating to this issue? And then also, after you hear these stories, talk to these families, read these files, does it become personal?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. This work is personal, and it is for the investigators too. They want to bring justice. They want to bring closure to the families that are impacted by the tragedies that are taking place.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. We do appreciate your time. Again, Cold Case Unit Chief Investigator Brian George, we appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
Still ahead, a look at a state program focused on giving young adults and veterans the chance to earn money while building a career in the environmental fields. That's next.
Stolen vehicles are a problem. We need a solution. Pursuits are not the solution to that.
Washington State is not missing high-speed police pursuits. Washington State is missing the possibility of a high-speed pursuit.
The future of space exploration.
I think there's a lot of opportunity that we don't even know exists.
The Artemis missions should have humans on the moon by 2026, and Mars is not far after that.
We look at how Washington State is a leader for missions moving faster towards space development than ever before.
The Washington Conservation Corps was created in 1983 by the state legislature to help protect and conserve the environment and to create employment opportunities for people in the logging or fishing industries who were put out of work. Today, it's a branch of the AmeriCorps organization housed within the Washington State Department of Ecology, which provides roughly year-long opportunities for young adults and military veterans to work on environmental projects like habitat restoration and disaster response. Ecology announced a new leader for the organization last month. Joining me now, Washington Conservation Corps Director Rebecca Benjamin. Rebecca, thank you for joining us today. Give us a sense of who this program is aimed at in terms of the workers who can apply for it.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. The Washington Conservation Corps program is aimed at providing a service opportunity for 18 to 25-year-olds in Washington State and also military veterans. And they have the opportunity to serve an 11-month term with WCC and get an experience working in the environment, doing restoration work, trail work. They also have an opportunity on some crews to go out on spike and be in an environment where they are outdoors every single day, working rain or shine, to do restoration work and trail work, and also build their career resume. It's really an amazing stepping stone for getting experience, technical skills, as well as building critical thinking skills and team skills and communication skills. Most of our Corps members are on crews of 5 with a supervisor, a professional staff supervisor, and some of them are individual placements working with a sponsor, not as part of a crew, but just as an individual placement. So those are the goals of the program and who we're providing experience for.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience and your background too, what you bring to the role and your perspective on this program too?
I would love to. I started my career as an AmeriCorps IP with the Washington Conservation Corps. So I say AmeriCorps, it's a partnership with WCC and AmeriCorps. And not to date myself, but in the late 90s, I was a WCC individual placement working at the Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group in Mount Vernon. And that was my stepping stone into doing salmon recovery work. I ended up doing salmon recovery for about 20 years. And this is my next step, is to come back and lead this amazing program that set the course of my life and set the course of my career and my focus. So near and dear to my heart.
Can you talk a little bit more about the types of projects that someone might wind up working on if they're, if they join the Conservation Corps? Absolutely.
There are over 100 sponsors or partners around the state that our crews get placed with or work with. And work varies. Some crews are doing trail work, working out in the forests. Some crews are doing restoration work, salmon habitat restoration quite often, and they could be working on rivers and streams and along beaches. Our Corps members plant over 400,000 trees a year and work on hundreds of miles of trails. So those are two kinds of work. They also may be involved with monitoring, environmental monitoring work. Could be counting fish, could be doing beach seining. They might have the opportunity to do marine debris removal. Just a really wide range of experiences that they have exposure to. And we try, even if a Corps member gets hired on to do, for example, restoration work, we also try to give them the opportunity to go on what we call spike, where they go for 4 or 8 days at a time with their crew to do sort of a special assignment where they oftentimes are camping maybe in the backcountry or in a remote area. They get to have that communal living experience on spike and do trail work or work on a special restoration project. So,
in terms of the value of the career experience, if people especially are interested in environmental fields, you're an example of that.
Yes, and I think there are a lot of examples. I just worked for almost 20 years at a regional fisheries enhancement group in Washington State, and we actually had a WCC crew that did restoration work. And every year, the 5 graduates from our crew had made contacts with community organizations and agencies, and very often they would move right into a professional job in the field of restoration or conservation. And so it's an incredible opportunity for folks to take that step into at least the beginning of a career.
And just going back to who can apply or who might want to apply, what are the experience requirements for people, for potential applicants? Are you looking for specific skills?
Nope, you don't have to have any experience. The age range is 18 to 25, and you can have done other AmeriCorps terms. You can do up to a total of 4 AmeriCorps terms. You can do up to 2 terms with WCC. So, but you don't have to have done any of that. You can come in with no experience right out of high school, and we do all the job training that you need. There are several opportunities a year to go to a special all-week training, and you get to pick and choose different training that interest you. Could be wilderness first aid, might be chainsaw work. There's all sorts of different things that you can learn on the job. And so then you leave the program. The idea is that you leave the program with the experience that helps you get a leg up on your next job.
And military veterans also can apply for this too. Is the age range the same?
There's no age range for the military veterans. It could be any age.
The disaster response, is that another area where the Conservation Corps plugs in?
Yes, disaster response is a really important part of what we do. I have been here for just a short time, and we've already deployed a crew to Iowa to help a small community there with flood relief. And we've helped out after hurricanes, after floods, after wildfires, and it's another amazing opportunity for the Corps members when they do go out on deployment to get a completely different set of experiences to really help communities in need and see the big difference that they make for families and individuals. So we do deployments nationwide. We also do assist within the state with maybe not disaster, but special needs. If there's a flood or a fire here, we will send crews out to help as well.
To wrap us up here, where should interested applicants look for more information?
ecology.wa.gov/WCC is the website and the landing page for folks to go to. There'll be a link there to apply. We are currently enrolling WCC Corps members, and the crew term starts October 1st. That said, it's a rolling application period, and we do have a couple of different times during the year where we can enroll members for less than the 11-month term. So if you're hearing this and you're interested and you can't apply now, but in 6 months you're interested, there's still opportunity to join for this year.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks again. That's the new director for the Washington Conservation Corps, Rebecca Benjamin. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
In an effort to save the northern and California spotted owl species, federal wildlife officials have approved a controversial plan to kill thousands of invasive barred owls per year in the Northwest. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, invasive barred owls compete with the smaller, less aggressive spotted owls for food and habitat. Once only found east of the Rockies, barred owls have today spread throughout most of the northern spotted owl's range and now outnumber spotted owls in many areas. The northern spotted owl has been on the state endangered species list since 1988 and was listed as threatened under the Federal Endangered Species Act in 1990. Long associated with the timber wars in the Northwest, the struggling northern spotted owl played a central role in the policy shift that limited logging on federal land. The barred owl culling plan has met with strong criticism. A number of animal advocacy groups signed a letter to Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland calling the plan unprecedented and, quote, colossally reckless, end quote. Watch The Impact or listen to the podcast anytime at tvw.org and follow us on X at The Impact TVW. We'll be back next week with more in-depth interviews you won't find anywhere else. I'm Mike McClanahan. Thanks for joining us. Take care.